Imagine waking up on a Tuesday morning. You make breakfast, you argue with your neighbor about a property line. You go to the bakery, and the bread is still warm. Your city is alive. Your city is loud. Markets, children, dogs, the smell of fish sauce drifting through narrow streets. And then, just after midday, a sound, not thunder, not an earthquake, something else. Something nobody in the ancient world had a word for. By the next morning, every single person who heard that sound, nearly 2,000 of them, would be dead, and their city would be erased from history for 1,700 years. This is the last night of Pompeii. Pompeii is not a small village. It's a city, roughly 20,000 people, sitting on the southwestern coast of Italy, about 150 miles south of Rome. It has paved roads with stepping stones for pedestrians. It has a 20,000-seat amphitheater. It has fast food restaurants. We've actually found them, called thermopolia, where workers grabbed hot meals through holes in stone counters, not unlike a drive-through. It has brothels, temples, election graffiti on the walls, wealthy merchants, enslaved workers, gladiators in training. In short, Pompeii is Rome in miniature. Messy, prosperous, fully alive, and sitting 9 kilometers to the north, close enough to see from the Forum on a clear day, is Mount Vesuvius. Now here's the thing. The Romans knew Vesuvius was a mountain. They farmed its fertile slopes. They built estates on its foothills. What they did not know, what no one in the ancient world understood, was that Vesuvius was a volcano. The concept didn't exist. The word didn't exist. There had been tremors in the region for years, including a serious earthquake 17 years earlier in 62 AD that damaged much of the city. But tremors were normal. The ground shook sometimes. You repaired your walls and moved on. So on the morning of August 24th, 79 AD, nobody in Pompeii is afraid. They're just living. We know what happened that day in extraordinary detail because of one extraordinary young man. 17-year-old Pliny the Younger was staying with his uncle, the Roman admiral and naturalist Pliny the Elder, at the naval base in Misenum, about 30 kilometers across the bay from Pompeii. He would later write 2 letters to the historian Tacitus, describing everything he witnessed. Those letters survive today. They are the closest thing we have to a live eyewitness account of a volcanic eruption from the ancient world. And what he describes, even before the eruption, is deeply unsettling in hindsight. For days there had been tremors. Nothing alarming by Roman standards, but frequent, persistent. And around noon on August 24th, his uncle noticed something in the sky above Vesuvius. Pliny the Younger describes it like this: a cloud, enormous, rising from the mountain, shaped like a pine tree. A trunk of smoke shooting straight up, then spreading outward at the top. We now have a name for that shape, a Plinian eruption column. It was 30 kilometers tall. 30 kilometers. In Pompeii, 9 kilometers away, the ground would have been shaking, the air smelling of sulfur, the sky darkening as the column blocked out the sun. Most people, and this is the hardest thing to reckon with, stayed. They had nowhere obvious to go. They didn't know what they were looking at. Some probably thought it was a fire. Some thought the gods were angry. Some looted abandoned homes. Some grabbed their most valuable possessions, gold coins, silver jewelry, birth certificates, the keys to their houses, as if they planned to come back. They were not planning to die. They were planning to wait it out. For the first several hours, Pompeii didn't burn. It was buried. Pumice, lightweight volcanic rock the size of golf balls, began raining from the sky at roughly a meter per hour. Roofs started to collapse under the weight. Streets filled. Doorways disappeared. This is the phase where some people escaped. Those who left early enough, moving south and west, away from the mountain, they survived. Thousands did. But for those who stayed, by nightfall, the pumice had reached a depth of nearly 3 meters. Moving through the city would have been like wading through gravel in total darkness. The air was thick with ash and toxic gases, and still, Vesuvius wasn't finished. Across the bay at Misenum, Pliny the Elder made one of history's most fateful decisions. A woman had sent word asking for help. He was an admiral with ships at his command. He launched a rescue mission. The fleet crossed the bay as rocks fell into the water around them. The helmsman urged retreat, Pliny the Elder allegedly said, and I love this, "Fortune favors the brave, head for Rectina's house." They couldn't land at Pompeii. The sea was too rough, the shore too choked with debris. So Pliny anchored further south at Stabiae, at the home of a friend. He ate dinner, he slept. He died the next morning on the beach, found 3 days later his body intact. The cause is still debated. Possibly a heart attack, possibly toxic fumes. He was 55 years old. An admiral, a naturalist, the author of Natural History, one of the great encyclopedists of the ancient world. He died trying to save strangers. Here is where the story becomes something else entirely. Shortly before dawn, the eruption column, that 30-kilometer tower of ash and gas that had been punching into the sky for nearly 18 hours, collapsed. When a Plinian column collapses, it doesn't just fall, it transforms. All that superheated gas and ash and rock that had been going up has nowhere left to go but out. The result is called a pyroclastic surge. A cloud of gas, ash, and rock moving at up to 700 kilometers per hour, faster than a commercial airplane, heated to temperatures between 300 and 700 degrees Celsius. There is no running from this. There is no shelter from this. Stone walls, underground vaults, cellars, none of it matters. The heat penetrates everything. The first surge hit Herculaneum, the smaller city closer to the mountain, first. Archaeologists studying skeletal remains there found that people died so quickly, their muscles contracted in the heat before they could even fall. They were found exactly as they stood, at Pompeii. The surge arrived as a wave of superheated gas and ash that killed everyone still in the city almost instantaneously. The famous plaster casts you may have seen. The haunting shapes of people caught in their final moments. Hands raised, bodies curled. Those forms were created because the ash hardened around them as they died. Centuries later, archaeologists poured plaster into the voids left behind. A family huddled together, a man shielding his face, a dog still chained to its post. Frozen, in a single breath. 18 hours after that first pine tree cloud appeared in the sky, it was over. Here's what makes Pompeii one of history's most important archaeological sites, and also one of its most haunting, because the ash preserved everything instantly. Pompeii is essentially a photograph of Roman life, frozen in a single moment on August 24, 79 AD. We have found loaves of bread, still in their baking pans, carbonized but intact. We have found jars of garum, the fermented fish sauce the Romans put on everything. We have found political slogans painted on walls, gladiator fan graffiti, lovers' inscriptions. We have found the remains of a man who appears to have been running, and was struck in the head by a flying stone block as he fled. We have found a skeleton of a man who survived the first eruption phase, apparently returned to loot, and was crushed by a collapsing wall, history's most famous crime scene. And perhaps the most important thing we've found, evidence of who escaped and who didn't. The wealthiest residents, on the whole, had horses and carts. They left earlier. The poorest, those who couldn't move quickly, the sick, the enslaved who may not have been permitted to flee, the elderly, they make up a disproportionate share of the dead. Disaster, as it always does, fell hardest on the most vulnerable. In the year 79 AD, the people of Pompeii woke up to an ordinary Tuesday. They had no word for volcano, no evacuation plan, no understanding of what they were facing, and in 18 hours, their world simply stopped. Vesuvius is still there today. It's classified as one of the most dangerous volcanoes in the world, partly because roughly 3 million people now live in its shadow, including the city of Naples. Scientists estimate the next major eruption would require evacuating up to 700,000 people in just 72 hours. We have a word for it now. We have the science. We have Pliny's letters. We have the casts. What we don't have, what Pompeii asks us every single time we look at those frozen forms, is certainty. We like to think that knowing protects us, that understanding the danger means we'll act in time. But 2,000 people stayed. They had possessions to protect, homes to believe in, a world they weren't ready to leave. Sound familiar? If you found this story as haunting as I did, hit subscribe. We cover history's most extraordinary moments every week, from ancient civilization to modern warfare. And if you want to go deeper, the letters of Pliny the Younger are freely available online. and reading them feels, even 2,000 years later, like reading a breaking news report. I'll see you in the next one.